What's up? How are you doing? What's up? How are you doing? What's up? And how are you doing? Welcome to the news. Welcome to the news. Welcome to the news. The World Peace Edition. It's the World Peace Edition. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, in today's episode, we're discussing the rental economy in the world and how it relates to world peace. Oh yeah. What I mean is that the closer that we get to a world economy that entails world peace, I'm thinking about the rental economy. Oh yeah. The rental economy meaning like something as simple as, but as crazy as, children being part of a community that has to do with the world in a future sense, that all kids and such things are part of a world community, and that it's acknowledged that ultimately from the beginning that everyone is part of a world economy and community. From the very start, every kid in the world has a birth certificate that's also part from the world. It's not just a significant country, but it's also a birth certificate that entails a stamp from the world. Oh yeah. Because in essence, it should be the world's obligation and duty to be able to raise that child as a whole, and cultural society's duty to be able to raise that child as a whole, so that there's a little bit of both. There's a duty and there's a parental responsibility, but also the parents want to raise their kids for sure. But there's also an interest and a collective interest for a society to have a collective interest upon a child to be raised like by a community, and then by a country, and then by a world as a whole, so that everybody's embraced from the get-go. Oh yeah. It's in essence like a communal child. Oh yeah. And that way, in essence, it takes away from a lot of selfishness that is incurred from the essence of communal families just being very selfish and inward focused and insular. That happens all the time from what I've seen over my lifetime. So what I mean by that is taking the interest for the community living and community child raising and world child raising and community looking out for brand new people. Oh, because there's an interest to do so, because everybody becomes selfish when it becomes inward focused, insular family provision and providing for just a family within, and providing child support and providing needing to get money just for a family, and then try to grow a family's well-being, and all these things just become inward focused, it becomes insular, and it becomes taking away from the focus of greater potential to be able to focus on the world's better good, which focuses on growing the potential for everybody in the world to have a better life. Oh yeah, because a few people that have better means than everybody else, rich families in other words, are able to just inward focus on developing their own family and their own family finances and such things, and try to worry about their own equation and their own scientific mathematical compounding growth interest within their monetary system, within their own equations, and that therefore detracts from the world energy to be able to increase and improve assets across the whole world, so every person in the world can become an asset. Oh yeah. Whereas if everybody who's newborn is also partially become raised by society and by the community of the world and by the community of their countries and by all these different regions that have communal acknowledgement and understanding and existence for an existence of a new person, that there is a communal interest, so that there is a community interest for every single person to exist in a positive fashion, and they're able to grow with positive elements and attributes so that they become more interesting for the whole global society, and that therefore is conducive to assets becoming a positive element for every person to be able to benefit from that person, that new person's energy. After all, that new person is energy, every person is energy, so that new person's energy can therefore become part of the global ecosystem in a positive sense, not in a dominating dictatorship type sense at all, but having just a vested interest in that person being born from the beginning, because it's not necessarily about democracy, communism, or any type of government structure at all. It's just about giving a hoot, giving an F about people that are born and watching them be raised throughout their lives, but not just like watching them like in a surveillance weird way, but just being able to look after them and provide provisions for them, so that if they are not looked after well by their families, that they are then therefore able to look to their communities to be able to find a lot of resources to actually raise them in a positive fashion. If they need like a mentor or a father figure to turn to or a mother figure to turn to, that they have this community fashion to be able to look to at all given times. And it's not just like about community services, but it's actually people that are able to be connected like at all given times of the day, for example, like 24 hours of the day, for example, like a parent could be, for example. But if those familial connections aren't there necessarily, that they have things to turn to. And it's like everybody's being raised by society, by the world, by countries, for example, and everybody is looked after, and therefore it's a little bit like a reflection of like the world rental economy. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like new applications that are coming about that make it so new things can be rented and such things, and it is a vested interest to be able to look at this weird example of talking about kids being raised by societies and by cultures. Oh yeah, 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 but it just seems like one of the fundamental first focuses of people in the world and in different countries that are well off to be able to focus just upon their families, and therefore it's a huge, humongous waste of energy and time and effort and all sorts of efforts and monetary energy and plans and giving and many resources that could be spread around the world. And so many recycled iPhones, for example, are thrown in the trash. For example, it's just resources that are wasted, and they get thrown in the trash into the Apple Store, and then therefore they're wasted energy. But then Apple benefits if somebody buys a new iPhone, but at the same time somebody in the world could benefit from a wasted iPhone that still is functioning after all, but just somebody didn't know how to fix it or switch on a couple things. And therefore this is a reflection of waste in the world that happens every single day, all the time, in different corners of the world, especially in rich countries, all the time. But if that energy is distributed and manifested and acknowledged in the form of monetary energy, then it's also possible to be able to acknowledge how that energy would be able to shift into all different countries into the world, and that energy could be distributed in different ways to all countries in the world, and therefore it's better off for the whole world to be able to benefit from the world's absent-mindedness when things slip through the cracks, like iPhones that nobody cares about anymore because that asset can be used in another direction. It's not just gone to waste, it's not a complete waste, and it's not about a company benefiting and becoming a way for them to raise their stock price, because who actually cares about that? After all, it's about innovation. That's what the whole purpose is, but after all, everybody only just cares about stock prices these days, and it's absolute madness. So therefore, why don't we just shift again back to the rental economy concept to begin with? Oh yeah, Dinky Tehc and Change for Game Studios is part of the greater economy that has to do with existing systems, for sure. We're not trying to build all new roads and things to be able to make and map out our whole company with tools that never existed 100 years ago, because they exist now and there's no reason to not use them. Oh yeah, like brokerages, for example, that exist in all countries in the world already, or almost all countries in the world, or at least like a few, like maybe over 50 countries right now. That's how we're trying to start our base company establishment as Dinky Tehc and Change for Game Studios, by being able to be powered by differing energies such as this that are already existing in branches into the world. Oh yeah. And we already have like a one world global country as it is right now, obviously, very much so. Obviously, we just need to be able to connect the dots and connect the ties and be able to understand the tubes from each other's minds and be able to tie those through so that there's a reason and a relevance for that positive energy, just like the rental economies do. You don't necessarily need to own all your wardrobes. You can necessarily rent them and they'll be cleaned for you, and then you can go and return them, and it's not necessarily something that's usually part of a rental economy, just like kids not usually being part of a rental economy or being part of a greater good, but they have so many more benefits to be able to work with if they are part of a greater good. And there's a lot less selfishness that goes into families, and all that selfishness that's wasted on families specifically, that's inward focus, could be distributed to the greater world, for example, through the rental economy mindset. Oh yeah, we're trying to grow our own world business through using the essence of the rental economy, which is existing assets and brokerages around the world, to be able to connect those and tie those with existing opportunity that we're able to bring on the front end through leads and such things for businesses that want to be sold, and we can package them. We want to package them with stories and narratives that weave in their greater purpose and their greater concepts of a greater cause for serving interest at the back end of that, to be able to hopefully facilitate greater leads that also happens to facilitate and relate to the real estate industries, similar to Airbnb, you could say, similar to also that Toro company that does car rentals and such things, to also be able to help get me around to earn some foundational cash to be able to continue to promote this brand and company as time goes on, to be able to reinvest these assets and such things. Oh yeah. Please stay with me. Oh yeah, we are not having technical difficulties, but we wanna segue to another piece. So stay with me. Oh yeah. We need to be conscious. We need to shift to a conscious nature for all world spaces and be able to empathize for balance, especially in turmoil vicinities. Frequently, the global news can attempt to turn into what is good news, what is hoped to turn into good news. Yeah. We need to be conscious about global spaces and empathize for balance, especially in turmoil vicinities in the world, so that frequently, the global news can attempt to turn that interest in negative spaces in the world into positive spaces with collective interest, to be able to change and look at and acknowledge places and spaces with turmoil. For example, in people with turmoil and rigid, certain circumstances and situations, to be able to shift that into positive news and be able to clean up the world as a whole, as a collective, as a trash collecting community in the world, and cherish world communities with more interaction, and even maybe an app to be able to have countries specifically made for countries and global communities that are as big as cities and as big as towns to be able to collaborate over borders, for example, specifically made for that, as opposed to apps and applications that exist within in countries that are specifically just made for certain countries, and it's not necessarily possible to cross borders and be able to speak to other communities or even be able to see what's necessarily going on very easily in a seamless sense with borders over in different regions, because you have to be able to translate the languages, and it's ideal to be able to do that with an organic sense where things are translated in an organic sense, but it's also actually preferred and promoted through the application that you're able to shift your focus into different countries and spaces and places around the world, because that's the purpose and the focus of the application, is to be able to change bad news into good news around the world, and be able to use collaboration and be able to try to conceptualize shifting certain energies from one side to another, from bad to good, in every single day, in every single way, by being able to use collective collaboration. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So let's please work together on this. Let's please work together on this. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And in terms of how we're trying to focus on growing the Dinky Tehc and Chitro Game Studios brand, there is an interest I mentioned in the last episode of trying to work with a friend necessarily that has old friend energy and such things, to try to revive that, to be able to try to work towards growing assets and an asset base, to be able to grow the foundational asset base, to be able to span and spawn into the world. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So what we're gonna maybe conceptually try to do here, or not, yeah, with more of an interest, is to be able to start to do a vlog, and that vlog entails, yeah, that reciprocal energy trying to be cast and noticed and captured and such things, and then therefore amplified, so that that energy, that vlog energy, is able to be able to shift into being able to work towards building a portfolio, and that portfolio to be able to try to cross the threshold of 100 million value of monetary energy of various types of energy that will hopefully equate to 100 million or more, trying to cross that threshold of 100 million or more in monetary energy, but also physical other energies and such things, and especially philanthropic energy. And that's one of the ways, and the best ways we hope to do it, is by working backwards and reverse engineering the process, starting with philanthropic energy and being abundant in philanthropic energy, and actually trying to sell off the philanthropic energy. We're trying to sell off the philanthropic energy by investing our own energy into different spaces and ways to be able to invest and reinvest and compound interest, to be able to focus on building a portfolio, an asset portfolio, in a soon time, and hopefully the soonest time possible, that is made from philanthropic energy. We're actually selling off philanthropic energy because we're focusing and following philanthropic energy, and that's very much a part of and aligned with spiritual finance. That spiritual finance is the guide, and philanthropic energy is the North Star, to be able to follow the philanthropic energy, to be able to try to chase the philanthropic energy, to be able to try to capture the philanthropic energy, to be able to try to sell that philanthropic energy to the market, to be able to translate it for monetary energy, to therefore then be able to translate it back to philanthropic energy and make that cycle cyclical. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And to be able to try to capture that within a vlog. Oh yeah, yeah, with an old friend's energy somehow in between, to be able to spawn the inspiration if possible. Yeah, yeah. So just keep following if you can, and hopefully try to promote and inspire us both to be able to continue to pursue that journey, to be able to persist in capturing that philanthropic energy and exchanging it for monetary energy, and then exchanging it back for philanthropy energy, and then changing that again and again and again, to try to continue to grow the portfolio past those numbers, past those target times, those places that we're trying to go to. And so continuing on that path and journey and such things, but we're trying to document in that fashion, and with that aspect of trying to build assets and compound energies and different energies that are focused around philanthropic energies. But yeah, being able to sell, buy, sell, and being able to trade and stack assets and interest and compounding focuses and such things, to be able to build that portfolio on the vlog. All right, thanks again for now. Thanks again. Bye, Dinky Tehc. Bye. Peace. All right.